there is a growing calls from Democrats. This is not the opposition party saying he maybe shouldn't run. And this ties into the abortion decision, I think, because by the left wing of his party, the president is seen as ineffective, not just on abortion rights, but he always seems to be playing catch up, whether it's baby formula or at the border, hasn't been able to deliver on voting rights or police reform, all of these issues. And so it's a hard position for Joe Biden. You would think he would at least have the support of his own party. But, you know, the age question and the fitness question are now being openly debated, in part thanks to these media reports.
If Democrats have a choice between loyalty and power, they will choose power 100% of the time, everybody. So this idea, welcome back to Clay and Buck, that, you know, Joe Biden, they voted for him, they're going to back him up through the rough times. Not if they think he's gonna drag the party down. Not if they think that he can't win the next time around. And Clay likes to go deep diving into the stats. He was sharing some earlier on today, sharing some of the latest poll numbers. I mean, Clay, this is stunning. Yeah. You've got Biden job approval. This is a civics poll over the 4th of July weekend. Job approval, 30% approve, 58% disapprove. With independents, 19% of independents approve, 68% disapprove. And independents, not only they're people who are obviously persuadable to one party or the other, I think they tend to be, and the data would support this, people who are like, what are the results, right? They're less ideologically inclined to one side or the other based upon ideas, beliefs, and rhetoric, and more, what's the price of gas? What's the economy like? What's going on that affects me? If those are your top concerns, Clay, the Biden administration is setting new records of awfulness.
New records of awfulness, and Buck, as bad as 30% approval is, Biden's actually underneath that in a bunch of battleground states here. Arizona, we got a Senate race coming up in Arizona in November. Right now they're deciding who the Republican nominee is going to be. 26% approval rate for Joe Biden right now in Arizona. Georgia, big governor's race and a big Senate race, 26% approval in Georgia. These are states that ostensibly Joe Biden won. 29% in Nevada, 30% in Pennsylvania, 31% in New Mexico, 32% in Michigan, 33% in Wisconsin. And, Buck, this one I saw, and it was a record scratch moment for me. Joe Biden only has a 34% approval rate in New Jersey. New Jersey, remember, Republicans almost stole the governor's race there last year. It surprised a lot of people. But if Biden can't get above 34% in New Jersey, that's pretty much unbelievable.
New Jersey's all like, hey, Biden, the price of gas, too high, buddy. It's too high.
And they don't even pump their own gas in New Jersey. Makes it even more expensive.
It's getting crazy. Oh, the taxes are too high. The pumping gas too expensive. Jersey's had enough.
But these numbers, and by the way, this is CivIQ, as Buck said. They also had numbers come out in the Monmouth poll today. All of them are reflecting that Biden's disapproval rating is about to hit 60%. That has never happened in our lives, that a president has gotten to 60%.
It's going to get worse, too, by the way, just so everyone knows.
It may well get worse.
It's going to go down more.
May well. We've been talking a lot about Joe Biden's numbers and how they're collapsing. And one of the arguments that Democrats are still trying to make, did you see this? I'm down in Florida, and Val Demings is running for the Senate against Marco Rubio in what is not going to be a particularly close case, close election. Marco Rubio is going to win massively, like I expect Ron DeSantis to win massively. We don't even know who Ron DeSantis is going to be running against yet. But Val Demings said, Democrats will be on the right side of history. They're the only party fighting for democracy. Listen to this. And as you listen to this, I just want you to think about it. Everyone who voted for Joe Biden, overwhelmingly Democrats, they lectured us for years that Donald Trump was on the wrong side of history and they were on the right side of history. And as you listen to them still try to make this argument, I want you to contemplate this. They picked the worst president in 100 years, according to all the numbers. We're early in history. But the wrong side of history, probably would include picking the worst president in 100 years. I think that's the definition of being on the wrong side of history. But listen to Val Demings try to lecture you.
Democrats will be on the right side of history because it is the Democratic Party. They're the only party right now that is fighting for our democracy, fighting for the middle class, fighting for our seniors, working to protect Social Security and Medicare, lower the costs, and keep us safe. Republicans have taken a vacation, or they're permanently removed from any of those things. Yes, we have the majority in all places, but the filibuster, as you well know, has been an obstacle to moving forth an agenda.
I mean,
this is amazing. It's a reminder that for so many Democrats, the best option for them going into this midterm election cycle is going to be talk about everything other than the things that people actually care about. Find a way to make this about defending our sacred democracy. You don't want it to be a referendum on COVID policies if you're a Democrat. You don't want it to be a referendum on inflation and the economy and any follow-through from Biden based upon what we were all supposed to believe was going to happen. I mean, even some libs out there here are saying, yeah, it just hasn't really turned out to be this amazing Biden presidency with all these great things happening.
One of the other things that I think that young woman was expressing is, yeah, we're Democrats. We voted for these people. And what are we getting from it? They were promised a lot going into this Democratic-controlled Washington, and not a lot has happened. And they said, oh, okay, well, yeah, Kristen Sinema, Joe Manchin. There are logical explanations to this, but there were a lot of over-promising happening, and they're having trouble explaining that to their voters now going into the midterms. And what did they get for their vote? Infrastructure.
By the way, infrastructure and 8.5% inflation. Infrastructure and a whole lot of economic decisions and vaccine mandates that, in retrospect, are indefensible, just indefensible.
Also, if they had gotten more of what Joe Biden promised, things would be way worse. Like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema saved the Democrats from, at least for now, double-digit inflation. And, Buck, I mentioned this in the open to the show. That argument is actually why I'm concerned. And we've got a lot of staffers, we got a lot of governors, senators who listen to this show, and their staff do. They're going to try to ram through a tax increase before July is over. And it's under the radar right now because they're trying to sneakily maneuver it through. But I'm telling you, they know they're going to lose the House. And when they lose the House, they won't be able to change the tax rates. They won't be able to pass any bills of any sort of substantial magnitude. And they think, if you look at the tea leaves, they probably have a good chance to lose in 2024 too. So this is their attempt to try and make a maneuver to give to their communist base this tax increase on many Americans out there. And I'm telling you, this is one where Republicans have to draw the line and try to stall. Because if you can make it through July, then they're not going to pass anything, I don't think, in August or September as you get too close to the election. But I think they know the red wave is coming to such an extent, Buck, that their calculus now is we've got to get something else passed because otherwise we're done. Biden's election is effectively in the past. There's no other agenda items to be passed.
And this is where I remind everybody, the system is working as intended.
Yes.
Gridlock is good.
Especially when it's a 50-50 country.
Most of the time. Right. This is the elected representatives. All this thing about, we can't get our agenda through because we'll win 60 Senate seats, libs.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard. You're so popular. You're so amazing with your ideas, right? This is exactly the way that it should be working, given the expressed desires through votes of the American people in terms of what the breakdown is in the Senate and the House, which is that they can't get stuff through because their ideas aren't popular enough. Full stop. They can complain all day about Republicans. They couldn't even get through the Build Back Better agenda because of Democrats. So this whole putting it all on the feet of Republicans, it's just not going to fly. People realize that. And to change what our expectations are supposed to be after the fact, after all the Biden failures, people can see through that. So, but again, Clay, there's desperation. Does anyone even remember? Do you? I mean, honestly, do you even remember what the January 6th hearings were really about a week or so ago in terms of what was the? There was some like young woman who testified, right? I mean, who cares?
It's all a sideshow, but I do think that this is where the sideshow can provide them cover. And everybody's going to be cheering, oh, yeah, raise taxes. The last thing we need is the federal government to pass anything right now. Everything that Joe Biden has touched has turned to crap. That's what I call the Bidas touch. The last thing we need to allow him to do is have even more control. And this is ultimately, the House is going to happen, right? We're going to have Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Nancy Pelosi is going to, go back to being a regular congresswoman in some way from San Francisco. She's continued to have incredible timing when it comes to the money that she makes on all of her trades. And her husband will probably notch a couple more DUIs between now and the future. But I will say, this is why all these Senate races are so important, because we're going to have control of the House. But if Biden still has the Senate, he's going to try and ram through a ton of left-wing loon judges. And that could be all the way from the Supreme Court all the way down. And so if you're living right now in Georgia, if you're in Wisconsin, if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in New Mexico, if you're in Nevada, all of these places where the Senate is going to be decided, you need to be super active. And you need to be super active with all of your friends and family, because we need a check against the awfulness that is the Biden presidency. And a Republican Senate and a House would at least keep things from getting far worse over the next couple of years.